So you should now be seeing, oh, sorry, you should be now seeing my screen. Oops. You should now be seeing a picture of a map with the words Faversham on the map 2021. Okay?
Yeah,
Good.
we've got it.
Good. Okay, so that's a good start. I want to start off by explaining how I got to the position of being able to give this talk. In the latter end of the last century, I became involved with the museum curators team, and one of the first jobs I was asked to do was sort out the collection of maps, which were just lying in heaps, rolled up, all higgledy-piggledy. So I did that and catalogued them all, and then went through all the archive boxes we had at that time to find anything else that might be of interest in the ways of charts, plans, and so on, and found a lot more things in those and catalogued those too. So my interest and the relationship between the maps I found and the charts I found and aspects of the history of Faversham really started at that point. I did give this talk as part of the Faversham Courses and Jaunts scheme in 2016. That was a 2-hour session with lunch and coffee break and all those kind of things. So this is a kind of pared down version of that to an extent, but the content is more or less the same. One problem I do have with this kind of presentation on Zoom and on a computer is that the detail you see is not as good as it would be on a projection onto a conventional screen in live situation. And I'll try to cover that by explaining what you're looking at if you can't read the words. So I'll try and deal with all that. So there's the title, Faversham on the Map 2021. And I'll go straight into the first slide. I just want to have a look at where Faversham is and how it relates to the rest of the world and the rest of the country, so we get a context for all these maps. So we start with this, a satellite view of oops, I've got a very sensitive touchpad on this machine, so it keeps jumping from one slide to another. I'll try and control that a bit more. But here we have the Channel, the coast of France, much closer to Kent and Faversham as the rest of the country is, and opportunities for trade along this fairly narrow gap, but also opportunities for invasion. We've only been invaded twice, as far as I can recall, by the Romans in 54 AD and by the Normans in 1066. But there's evidence of both trading and raiding and invasion still to be seen around the shores. First of all, the oldest piece of evidence, the Dover boat, dating from the Iron Age, together with its cargo. A Roman wreck of Herne Bay somewhere around here. I think the place it was wrecked was Pan Pudding Island, and evidence of its cargo kept being washed up throughout the 19th century and probably earlier as well. And it was mainly domestic ware, domestic Samian ware, and was used in kitchens throughout the Herne Bay area and possibly still is. And then further inland, of course, the Graveney boat, our own example of trading in the past, dating from 900. And finally, various wrecks of sailing barges that were abandoned when the brick trade started to come to an end around this area here, all the way along the coast here. I know of 3 wrecks at Konya, for example, still tied up against the quay there. And finally, an example of invasion: a U-boat in the marshes around here, still lying there near Rainham. So that's the kind of context in which Faversham exists. We go to a bit more detail here. One of the key features of Faversham, which is located here, is the channel, the Swale, just south of the Isle of Sheppey, which offers a safe passageway for ships coming from the continent or from the North Sea, a safer passage through here to either the Medway estuary or the Thames estuary. And that safe passage is useful to towns on each end of it, because they can start demanding tolls for the passageway through this piece of water, of which Faversham, of course, is one of those towns, and Milton Regis at more or less the other end of the passage. If we look a bit more closely at Faversham, the problem is for Faversham the nature of the access to the main thoroughfare, this rather curved creek that we have, which is a problem for sailing ships of getting up into Faversham town in time on the right tides and with the right winds. And that has been a problem in the past when cargoes of fish have been stranded in some of these bends and have got off in the hot weather in the summer and caused quite a problem. So that's a trading problem, or a problem that affected the way in which the port of Faversham could operate. So that, as I say, that's the general context of where Faversham is and how it can operate as a port. What I'm going to start with now is not, in fact, a map at all, but a list of places with distances between them. It's known as the Antonine Itinerary, a Roman document that covered the whole of the Roman Empire. We're only interested in the bit that covers England and the bit that covers Kent today. So we just had a look at that. Here's the whole of England with the Antonine Way plotted onto the image of England. And here we can see the route with numbers. I'll just try and get that a bit bigger, actually. Sorry, I'm losing control of the technology here. Right, so here we can see the roadways with numbers alongside them. The numbers in Roman numerals are the original itinerary mileages in Roman miles, and the ones in Arabic numbers, the 16 here, the 9, the 8 and the 13, they are the actual Roman miles between one place and another. And they're fairly accurate. So the itinerary, for example, here says 10, the actual number is 13, 12 and 13, 14 and 16. They're pretty close. If I just move on to Kent itself, here we are with the place names, in the Roman place names, that is, and again, the mileage is here. And we can see here Dover, Richborough, Lymm, Canterbury, and so on. This one, however, is in square brackets. All the other ones we know the location of, but this one, Dura Levum, we're not sure what the location of that one is. There's supposed to be sorry about this technology. They're supposed to be within about half a day's march of each other. And obviously this is kind of halfway, if you like, between Rochester, Brive, and Canterbury, but where is it? There have been several theories about where it is. Sindale seems to be the most popular. And here we have those original Roman names and the modern equivalents of them, and Duroleven missed off this because we simply don't know where it is. Sindale, as I say, is the most popular, and one local archaeologist seemed to have proved that that was in fact the site. But it became a subject of a Time Team programme in 2004, I think, called The Roman Fort That Wasn't There. Time Team proved conclusively to their own satisfaction that the evidence presented to them for the presence of this fort was in fact not viable. Other contenders are towards Sittingbourne, around Keycolt area. But if we look at the 1924 Ordnance Survey 1-inch map, it's clearly marked on there. Here's Duroleven, just south of Old Tenham. I'm saying Old Tenham because in 1924, Tenham that we know on the Watling Street on the A2 was in fact called Green Street. And here's Duroleven, clearly marked. I'll just go into a larger scale for that. Here we are near Newnham and out on the outskirts of Tenham, as we call it now. I don't know what evidence they had for that. And at that time, they were quite happy to put archaeological sites onto the Ordnance Survey maps. That's not the case now because since the invention of metal detectors, there have been problems with the archaeological sites and robberies from them. So the tendency now is to not show any detail about where they actually are. So that's in a sense the first map we have that includes Faversham or the Faversham area, the Antonine itinerary. I want to move on now a few centuries to 1350 or so, when we begin to see the first accurate maps, and accurate is in quotation marks here, first accurate or accurate-ish maps that we have of England. This is known as the Goth Map, after the name of the collector who found it, Richard Goth. The date is probably around 1350. And I say probably because the only evidence of any sort of dating for this is the fact that Coventry is shown on it as a walled town. And we know that Coventry didn't have walls until about 1350. There's no other real evidence to date this map. Now, I try to, you'll see it's on its side compared with the way we we see maps now. And I've got the next slide the right way up from our point of view. So that's what we would normally see. And you get the impression that this area here is more or less accurate compared with a map we would expect now. But this area isn't. It's very elongated, and the islands around Scotland here are totally wrong. So it seems as if the expertise in planning this map and drawing it up was centered around this area somewhere. The purpose of the map is unclear. It has routes on it. I'll try to, if I go back to the previous slide and try to zoom in on those, you'll see here, for example, there's a red line, and that's a route of some sort with mileage on it as well. The figures are too small to show on this slide. There's another more distinct one here. They are routes, but what are they routes of? We're not sure. If we go to see the routes planned on the map here, we can see there's nothing between Canterbury and London, for example. So it's not a kind of normal trading route or travelling route that we would expect. There is a route from Canterbury to Southampton, and several routes out of London, so a few routes out of York and so on. So nobody's really sure, although this has been studied in great depth, there's no real solution to the problem of what the routes actually were. They might have been ecclesiastical routes, or they might have been trading routes or taxation routes or something like that. Simply don't know. Most of the items shown on the map are ecclesiastical. So if we're going to a little bit more detail here on Kent itself, we can see churches. There's the predominant thing shown on the map. Here we see Dover, Canterbury, a large building there, indicating a cathedral, Rochester Cathedral, and London, quite a defended city there. And this obviously is the wrong way up. I'm showing it as we would normally expect a map to be shown now. If we look at that in a bit more detail, again, Canterbury, Rochester, and here we have Faversham. Sorry, disappeared. And you can just about read the word Faversham there. Most of the names I can't read, so that's supposed to say Canterbury. Here's one that's very easy to read, Otford, Tunbridge, but all the others are more difficult and need interpretation. Here's that red route towards Southampton. Complete mystery, as I say, about what this map actually is all about. I want to leap forward another couple of centuries to a map you might be more familiar with. This is a picture map, probably produced around 1513, and it's one end, the Faversham end. You can see here the words Faversham town. This is the Faversham end of a map that's about 25 feet long and represents the jurisdiction of the port of Dover, the sacked port of Dover. And it's thought to be a strategic map to do with the wars with France that were taking place at that time in the early years of Henry VIII's reign. It seems to be showing places of interest to captains of ships who might want to resupply their ships. For example, here there's the town crane, which is mentioned in the Wardmote book, shown in yellow. And throughout the map, we see significant items shown in yellow as a kind of key. Over here, we can see the town warehouse, T.S. Hazard, we call it now. I'll just move along the map a little bit. There it is. And what we feel is probably King's Mill here. We don't know what the mill was for, whether it was gunpowder or for grinding corn. And here's a palisade, another one here, that might be the boundary fence of the gunpowder industry, which was in the town then, or I suppose at the edge of the town at the time, but the part of the industry that became called the home works. Now, this is one of a series of maps commissioned by Henry VIII to understand the state of defences along all the coast of southern England. This is a fairly crude one. This is a picture map. All the others were much more accurate and much more conventional in the sense that we think of a map nowadays. So the whole question of mapping and examining and reviewing the defences of the realm became much more sophisticated and much more accurate as time went by. I want to move on to still inside the reign of Henry VIII in the sense of what happened to the lands confiscated from the church in the the 1530s. 1538 is the date that the Faversham Abbey was dissolved, and the lands it owned became available for basically for the king to farm out to whoever he felt like farming it out to, selling it on and that kind of thing. Now that meant that there was a great demand for accurately mapping or planning the areas that were subject to sale or giving away as gifts, so that and that really, it developed the art of surveying. And we can see here the badge of a surveyor, indication of his accuracy. His name, I think, is Elias Allen. I don't know quite who he is. Some of you in the audience might know who he was. But this is a typical estate map of the time. This is actually dated 1610. So the lands that we're showing here were going through a whole process of being sold and bought and so on. And here we can see the Abbey. This is Court Street, Abbey Street, and the boundary along, I can't remember what this road here is called. But that little wall there is still in that shape. The shooting meadows. The other thing I want to point out here is the way that Faversham is spelt, with an E here. So we have the word Feversham.
Faversham.
Now, and that apparently came into use in around 1610, so around the date of this plan here. I'll be coming on to that matter as we go through.
Muted who keeps coughing. There's somebody not muted who keeps coughing.
Oh, yeah. Here's another example of an estate map that's relevant to the history of Faversham. This is a plan of the land we now call School Farm. At the time, it was known as Honeyhole Farm. I'll just try to zoom in on that as well. So here we have Honeyhole is the name of the farm here. This is the Graveney Road here, and here's Ewell Farm over here. Now what happened is when the Abbey was dissolved, the Abbey used to run a grammar school, and the income for the grammar school was based on this land and other land as well. But this land was confiscated from the Abbey when it was dissolved, and so the town didn't have a grammar school. They petitioned Queen Elizabeth I to reinstate the grammar school and reinstate the land for the grammar school. And that's exactly what this plan is all about. This is somewhat later than the date the school was established. This plan is actually 1615, but it is showing that the land that was re-endowed for the running of the school. The school now, of course, or the school that it was endowing was the original school, which is now used by the Freemasons as their hall. Leaping forward a little bit, a couple of centuries more now, it became very fashionable to have maps of your county in your library as a gentleman during the late 1550s, and a great deal of interest in the running of counties and how they could be controlled and taxed, in fact. And this developed into what ultimately became road maps. Now, this is an example of that. This is not just one county. This is one of a series of 6 maps making up the whole of England and Wales. And this map is part of the map showing Kent, Sussex, Surrey, Southamptonshire, as it was called then, and parts of Wiltshire and parts of Essex. Quite a large area. And this was created by, let me see here, John Garrett, 1688. That's the date of this map. And it was a copy of, or a development of, an original one by Thomas Jennock in 1644, which became known as the Quartermaster's map, because it was used, or the series of 6 was used by both sides in the Civil War. Now, the reason I'm including this map today is because this part of it includes Faversham. So if I go to the next one, here you can see Faversham, spelt with an E again. And other spellings around here that we wouldn't be familiar with now. They're quite different. Sheppey, Queenborough, Tong, I think is the same, or does it have an E on? I can't remember. Tenham, different. Norton, the same. Buckland, the same. So there was a lot of fluidity in the way these names were being spelt. Sheldwich again, another one. And Faversham, as I say, with an E. So that was really what I'm trying to illustrate by including this map in this talk. If we move on to this type of map, this is what is called a strip map. And the creator, or the original creator of the strip map, was a man called John Ogilby, who created his map in 1720, maps of the whole of the UK, of England rather. And they were published in book form, so there's no way they could have been used as route maps as you're travelling along the route, which would seem to be their intention. So they were republished in various forms in smaller book form. This is an example I've got in my collection. You can see this is page 43, so there's quite a few pages in the book still, but they're small enough now to carry in your carriage and use it as a route map, a form of itinerary. Prior to this, you would have had to ask people the way, or you would have had to hire a guide to tell you the way. So the bit I'm showing here is the bit that interests us. This is Watling Street between Sittingbourne and, I'll show that in more detail. Here we are, Preston and Bourton. And again, we can see here spellings we find very odd now. And in fact, Bourton is spelt in 3 ways on this same map. 1, 2, 3. And Faversham is entirely off the map because it's not on the main road. Feversham again with an E. And Preston shown much larger. So Preston at that time, in terms of this route, was more important, of equal importance to Bourton. Now here we have a form of county map in the sense that this is one of the maps shown in a book about Kent called The History and Topography Survey of the County of Kent, published by Edward Hasted in 2 editions in the 1790s. Now, the reason I'm including this one is because this is showing the 100 of Faversham, not the Faversham town. You can see here it includes the Isle of Harty up here. So the 100 of Faversham was a much bigger entity than we would expect if we think in terms of Faversham, which is actually quite a small part. Here's Faversham here. I want to move on now to the Jacob map, which is more or less the same date as the Hasted map. Now, the Jacob's map is a map of Faversham itself, and it says here, Faversham in the county of Kent. It's a town map, or to be more precise, it's a parish map. This is showing the parish of Faversham. And it's important because it shows the limits of the responsibility of the town council of the time. There's nothing on this map that isn't Faversham parish. So we see blanks here. Preston is a complete blank, Davington a complete blank, and so on. So it's purely Faversham parish that's being shown. This was commissioned by, let's refer to my notes here, commissioned by the borough authorities. The Ward Moat book includes an entry for 1743 ordering the bounds of the town to be surveyed. And then in 1745, this was extended to include the estates and wastes of the town. What it means is the agricultural land around it. So here we have the town and then agricultural land all around it at that time, because it's much bigger now. And the town boundaries were marked by boundary stones, of which some still remain. There's one near Chart Mills, marked TLF, the Town and Liberty of Faversham. I don't know if it's in the right place. There might be 1 or 2 others as well. And this map shows the position of the boundary stones all the way around, together with an itinerary, in effect, that moving from one boundary stone to another. And they're shown on here and on here. We can see these in more detail in a minute. There's other things on this map. It isn't just a map of Faversham, but there's a dedication, for example, here. There are indications of its kind of authority in the sense of badges here and seals. There's a drawing of the abbey here, or the remains of the abbey, and there's an indication of 3 different norths. And finally, there's a list of places of interest here. I'll go through these in more detail in the next few slides. We start here with the seals. I can remember these correctly. This is the oldest town or corporation seal. I think the date is 1425. It's only on one document that's extant now. The arms of the Cinque Ports, the obverse and reverse of the town seal as we know it now. What's this one? This is the, can't remember that. This is Queen Elizabeth School. This one's the Port Moat Court. I'll have to look this one up. Oh, that's the mayoral, I can't say, mayoralty of Faversham. Sorry, the technology's overtaking me here. So there's some indication of the authority for this map. And here the dedication to Lewis Watson, who was the Member of Parliament for the County of Kent and Lord of the Hundred and Manor of Faversham. So it's the larger area we saw on the Hasted map. And the words here are saying this plan in testimony of his gratitude and respect is most humbly inscribed by Edward Jacob. So I suspect that some of the finance for producing this map was supplied by Lewis Watson. And here's a kind of thank you for that.
There's now Faversham, not Feversham.
Yeah, the Faversham is now spelt with an A. As I understood it, we only use the A now, and as I understood it, it was the post office that insisted on one way of spelling. I don't know if I'm right on that. I'm sure I read that somewhere. And so we ended up now with the A and not the E. Prior to that, we could see either of them on maps. Here's the list of the boundary stones and the distances and the bearings of one to the other. And then there's that in text as well. I won't attempt to read that out, but if you want to read this, there is an example of this in the museum. I know the museum's not open at the moment, and you can buy copies of this map, replicas of it, in the Fleur-de-Lis Heritage Centre. Is that still open?
All come to sleep.
We see a bit more detail here. If I just go back to the original map here, we can see here the marsh works, gunpowder works. This is where Stonebridge Pond now is. And you can see all the leats here. And Chart Mills is somewhere in this complex here. So that really shows the extent of the gunpowder works at that time. And here are some references in the town. Y is the King's Field. I don't know if you can read that there, but if I just go back to this map, here's the Y, and this is King's Field. This is Stone Street is about here. That's Gatefield Lane there. Stone Street must be here, I guess. This is Watling Street, Preston Street, and South Street and Ospinge Road. Now this area here, Kingsfield, that's where the Saxon burial ground was found when the railway was being built through here. The Gibbs collection of Saxon brooches and other items was found in that area there. This is the compass point shown on the map. Here's, sorry about this technology. Here's the magnetic north, a variation from, I can't read the words there, a variation of that, and true north. Now, why you would have this on a town plan, I do not understand. But I think it must just be a way of demonstrating that this is a very accurate plan of the town. And this amount of detail is indicating that accuracy. Now, I want to move on now. I'm already running out of time, I see, but I want to move on now to the mid-1800s. So this is early 1800s. This is a plan by Thomas Telford to straighten the creek and alleviate that problem of the curves in it. The plan was to dig a channel through here, straightening off this bit and straightening some of the bits nearer town, which were a little bit too curvaceous. Nothing happened because there were arguments about the cost of doing this and whose responsibility it would be to maintain this canal here. The other reason I'm including this map today is because of this little hill shown here, Nagton Hill. Now, there aren't any hills at Nagton, so what's all this about? Just move on a slide, and here we see Nagton Hill. What is it? Well, the other name for this was Nagton Bump. And it was demolished in 1953 to build up the sea defences. 1953 was the year of the serious floods. And so it disappeared then. But what was it? Some people feel it was just a refuge for sheep in times of flood. But other people feel it was a burial site. And in fact, one of the Faversham papers, I can't remember which number it is entitled Beowulf in Kent. And it puts forward the case for this being the burial place of Beowulf. And it argues for some place names around here, Nagton, Warden Point and various others, as being derived from Saxon nameplace. I don't believe that, but as I say, you know, there is the Faversham paper on it, which you're welcome to read and make your own decision about. Now, in fact, what happened is that the creek never did get straightened to the extent that was planned, but what happened is development of this steam tug here. This is Pioneer, the first steam tug that was on the creek. It was, I think, leased by the corporation at first and eventually bought by them. But that was able to tow the barges up the canal and alleviate the problem of the, of the creek rather, and alleviate the problem of the curvature of the creek. It was a shame that the canal wasn't ever completed because in the 1850s, the rail industry developed. And the railways needed coal to be delivered. Whitstable was really on the ball on this, developed Whitstable Harbour, I think by about 1830, something like that. And they were able to supply coal to Canterbury from Whitstable Harbour, and that meant the Faversham couldn't take advantage of that particular trade. But some straightening did take place, and we can see here, this is Monkey Island, I think it's called. That's the old Pollock shipyard where there's now housing. That's Upper Brents there. And you can see here where the creek used to be, going right around here. And it's been straightened along here with a footpath through alongside. The other part that was straightened was here. This is the big building. So it's an air shot above the big building, and you can see where the creek used to be. I think it was right down here originally, round here, and then back here somewhere. And it's been straightened, so obviously a big advantage. You can still walk round here, and rumour has it that the bones of King Stephen, his wife and son, were thrown into the creek somewhere around here on dissolution of the abbey where they'd been buried. But I believe they were buried in the parish church, where there is a tomb of the right period, but without any identification on it. I'm now leaping forward to the mid-1800s, and this is a plan of what became Albion Terrace, a range of houses there. And this is part of the 19th century development of the town. This area here was built by the grandfather of, what's his name? By the grandfather, the man Osborne. So he was a barge owner, and he became a developer, but eventually became bankrupt. This is one of his developments here. He bought this lot, and there are 12 lots there, of which the end one has the possibility of 2 buildings on it. And they became numbers 1 to 13 Albion Terrace. And we just move on, we can have a look at those. But the terrace itself is of some historical importance. This is where Dr. Evers lived, who was the medical officer of health for Faversham for over 50 years. He lived at number 1 here and had his surgery there as well. At the other end, number 13 is where the Belgian refugees were housed in 1914, when several Belgians came over to England, escaping the invasion of the Germans. And this is where one of the families was held. And these have been renumbered now. I can't remember the numbers, but I think this is around number 34 South Road now. And you can see there the words Albion Terrace up here. Now, other examples of the development of housing. This is really in the St John's, St Mary's Road area. Benjamin Atkins, a prominent architect in the town, he designs the Sheb Dean headquarters, those lovely doorways with the vines, the hops around them. It was designed by him. And his house was in Newton Road at the end of Gatefield Lane. I've forgotten the name of the house now. One of you will be able to tell me at the end perhaps what that was. So he was a prominent architect of the time and bought up plots of land in the areas we now know as St Mary's Road, Newton Road and Preston Street. So here are the plots, some of the plots he bought. In St Mary's Road, there are 2 individual lots. I think Jonathan perhaps lives in one of these. Again, we can check that out at the end. And another plan here showing the Wreck and St John's Road and Park Road. So all these plots of land here, which became the core of the development of Faversham during the latter part of the 1800s. I think this plan is dated around 1870 or so. Now I'm going to have to rush on a bit because I think we're running towards the end of our time.
Clive, if I may, I'm not sure that people necessarily want you to rush on. I think
okay.
Go at the pace you want to go.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm moving on now to World War I and the use of maps as propaganda. And this is a postcard issued by someone and Robertson, I can't remember the first name, Royal and Robertson, the stationers of Faversham. This is a postcard, propaganda postcard basically, published, as I say, by them and freely available now on eBay. There are lots of these on eBay all the time. But it wasn't just a postcard. You can see in my next slide, if I can control it, here, this is the commemoration of Philip Neame, Captain Philip Neame, being awarded the VC for his action in Germany, in Belgium in late 1914. This postcard is dated July 1915, the first time he got leave to come to England. And here he is, and you'll see up on the wall here is the same propaganda image as we saw on the postcard. So this is not a case of Faversham on the map. This is very much a case of the map on Faversham. This is Faversham Town Hall here. And in the museum collection is the original manuscript version of that map, of that map and of the postcard. So here it is all handwritten as the original. There's another postcard, propaganda postcard here. This is the record of the first air attack, or aircraft attack rather, on Britain. April the 16th, 1915, a very small single-engine, just one person in it, came over from France and dropped bombs of this sort, quite incendiary bombs really, and dropped them on this route here, several around the Matinade area, then following this route here, somewhere around Tunstall, Borden, up onto the Isle of Sheppey, one dropped here, back round, and off out to sea again. And the only victim was this, I don't know whether it's a crow or a thrush or a blackbird or what it is. It varies according to the reports you read. But that apparently was sitting in a tree, again, varies between pear tree, plum tree and apple tree, that was knocked down by one of the bombs, and that was the only victim. Now, I'm going into the realms of fantasy now. Somewhere we've got the book that this is illustrating. This is a book called, I've lost it for the moment. Here we are. This is a book called Ridley Walker by Russell Hoban, published in, can't see, no date on it. But basically it's a post-apocalypse book illustrating the way that people redevelop civilization, in this case by development of language. So they're remembering the names of places, but not quite correctly. So here's Ramsgate remembered as the Ram, Dover as Do It Over, and up here we have Faversham, remembered as Father's Ham. So I thought I'd include that one as a bit of fun. I don't know if any of you know this book.
1980.
1980, the book was published. And another bit of fun, this is a line of print by Hugh Ribbons, who many of you will know. A street map, but with imagination in the pictures here. So here's a man taking a dog for a walk. A man, I don't know what these people are doing, running along, another dog being taken for a walk. Sorry about the technology here. The sailing barge on the creek, the church, the QE score, the original. This is in the wrong place, strictly speaking. This is Arden's house and the original Abbey entrance gateway, of which only part remains in the wall of Arden's house. And here's the Anchor pub down at the end of Abbey Street. So a nice bit of fun. This is available in postcard form or card form. And Hugh Ribbons' humour involved in all
Very
that.
decorative.
Hmm?
Very decorative.
Yeah, very decorative. And I want to end now with another view of the area, just as we began. This is a satellite picture showing the North Kent coast here. Here's Ramsgate here. Whitstable and Herne Bay, Canterbury, Faversham, Sittingbourne, Sheerness, Medway Towns, Maidstone, Ashford. And I imagine this must be Southend, somewhere over here. And then we start going into London here, with Dartford around here somewhere, and the Thames. So it shows how Faversham relates physically to the other towns around here. It's a very visual way of showing that. You can see the street lighting along here, absent in these areas here, but the main road's very much lit up. I can't see the motorway, so this might date from pre-motorway days, I'm not sure. But I want to end on that, and I hope that's given you a brief look at how Faversham has been shown on maps over the years. And indeed, quite a number of these images are from the archives of the museum. And it's worth, if you're interested in this subject, going into the archives and having a look to see what's in there. The archives are relatively little used, in my view, and should be open to more academic or purely casual interest use. It's a very, very rich archive indeed, and I really felt quite privileged to be able to go through originally 25 years ago and find all these maps. There are many more in the collection now. So I'd like to end there, and thank you very much for listening, and I'm quite happy to answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Clive, before you stop sharing, do you want to just share your email address?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yes. There we are. So that's me and my email address. If you want to ask any questions that aren't covered tonight, then just use that and I'll see what I can do. I'm now in Worcester. I don't have any access to the archives anymore, but I've got quite a bit of stuff up here still. I'm stopping sharing now.
Thank you very much for that, Clive. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. I have muted everybody, so if you have a question, please could you unmute yourself and ask away.
Hello.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
You've been very active on chat.
Thank you for this evening.
It's a pleasure.
Can I just because I've taken loads of notes.
Okay.
As I would, but I'm just wondering, because with the show that we're putting together at uni, because there's loads of things that you've said this evening where I'm thinking it would definitely fit.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't.
So what was this for? I didn't quite hear what you were saying.
Right. Because I'm at the University of Kent. I'm doing my master's in curating with the history and philosophy of art.
Okay.
And we're working on a show for this summer called Are You Local?
Yeah.
And we've got all sorts of different things going on, but I initially thought, with the direction that we're currently going in, maps would be a really good way to show. It's not just a document of. You just bear with me. My battery's come on as low. Just bear with me. I need to put my switch on.
Okay. Well, contact me on the email anyway. If you
Clive,
do use yourself.
Clive, sorry, would you mind flashing your email address up again? I'd like, now you're in Worcester on a completely different matter,
Okay.
to talk to you about Wheeler of Hooker and Wheeler, the designers of the almshouses, whom I'm researching, and Wheeler came from Worcester, from St Peter's area, and I'm wondering if you can help me get in touch with anybody who might know something about his origins.
Okay, I seem to have lost my screen now.
Just shout it to me, Clive.
Yeah, it's Gene and Clive, all one word, with 32 on the end. Gene and Clive 32.
Yes.
At btinternet.com.
Thank you so much. Okay, I do have a question for you when it's appropriate.
Okay.
Lisa, can we?
Has Lisa gone? Oh, there you are.
No, she's still here. Lisa, do you want to finish your question? You're muted. You need to unmute.
Hello?
Hello. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Well, what I suggest you do is email me, because I now live in Worcester.
Okay.
We moved up here 18 months ago, so I don't have access to the archives anymore, but somebody else might have. I don't know quite what the situation there is. I know the
Clive?
first closed.
Clive, Caroline and I are
Ah.
dealing with the maps.
Yeah, okay.
So, if you want, I think, Lisa, I think you've got my email address, haven't you? john.clarkstone@outlook.com.
It's Heather I've been speaking to.
Yeah.
Well, just to speed this up for everyone else, Heather can let you have John's email address. So
That's fine, thank
let's
you.
do it that way rather than.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions then?
John, do you want to just say something about the map collection before we leave you, as it were?
Yeah, it's just the Clive has shown some of the things that Clive showed aren't in the collection, but a lot of them are, and there are many more maps as well.
Yeah.
Far too many to show in any single presentation.
Yeah, I didn't cover the gunpowder industry. We've got lots of that came from Arthur's collection.
Yeah, and also we have the 1865 Ordnance Survey Town Plan at a fabulous scale of 10 feet to the mile.
Yeah.
And we have a number of other historic maps. And if anybody's interested, I can direct you to other websites that have got a lot more historic maps on, which show Faversham. So I've got a question of my own, Clive.
Okay.
My question is on the Elias Allen map. Is that's a very good quality copy of it you showed. Where does that exist? That copy?
Sorry, which one is that?
The Elias Allen.
Elias Allen.
Oh yes, yes. That's that's the. There is a copy in the collection. It was on display in the Long Gallery. That's the plan of the town's 1610. That one.
But the copy.
The original is in the Northampton Record Office. It's known as the Rockingham Collection. I think Rockingham must have been the lord of the manor at some point or something like that. But somehow he got hold of that part of the estate, and that's why that plan is in the collection in Northamptonshire.
Okay.
Well, I got that picture under license that we can show it in the gallery, displayed in the gallery. So that should be in the collection somewhere.
I haven't found it yet.
No, well, it might still be on display on the wall in the Long Gallery.
Okay.
Where it was.
I will check with other questions.
Anyone else with the question? Jonathan.
Two things, Clive. Firstly, the Tudor map, the Henry VIII map showing the creek with the town crane and so on. I'm always puzzled by what it's showing in the way of the tributary creeks. Is it showing Thorn Creek on the left? And what is the one on the right, do you think? Do you think that's White Creek?
Where the town warehouse is.
Oh, yeah.
Is I think Cookstitch. We can't assume this is accurate.
Right.
It's just giving an impression of things in a sense. But I think it's Cookstitch that is coming in beside T.S. Hazard. And I haven't shown it all. There is another piece on the end that shows beyond the town. There's a big red wall. The person who's got this is Paul Wilkinson. He hasn't got the map. He's got a complete collection of slides, quite large scale slides that he took. The original is in the British Library. I can give you the reference somewhere. It's
no, don't worry, Clive. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. It just features in various books on maps. But all we got in for the museum was a reproduction from the British Library, which again we had on display in the Long Gallery.
Yes.
I don't know what the state of the Long Gallery is now. I've been gone 18 months. But it was right on the end of the Long Gallery together with the Rockingham map.
It's still there. That's still there.
Still there. And the Rockingham as well?
No, I don't think so.
Well, they were together more or less.
Yeah. But Cookstitch surely comes in as White Creek, doesn't it? In the boatyard. In Iron Wharf.
Does it? Okay. My memory's a bit faulty on this then,
Well,
but
don't worry.
whatever. I mean, I think you need to look at more than what I just showed today,
Okay.
because there are other creeks coming in. There's Thorn Creek somewhere involved there as well. But I don't think we could expect it to show accuracy.
No,
It's
okay.
just trying to give an impression for people to know where to get provisions and where to offload their sick and all that kind of thing if they're coming back from the French wars. So they would more maybe off the coast somewhere and row ashore with people or use lighters to come up into the town.
Thank you. And the other thing, you referred to the Adkins plot map of St Mary's Road, and you referred to my house.
Yes.
I think the
that
plot
was yours.
No, I think Adkins was acting as I understand from, I've always understood from John Owen, Adkins was acting as agent for the combination of Mail and one or two others who were behind the development of the Newton Road, St John's, St Mary's Road complex.
Okay.
And we were actually the first house in St Mary's Road. I think the plot that's shown for sale is what is the Baptist chapel plot.
Oh, yes, I see. Okay, yeah.
Between that sheep paddock that the old widow Gillow kept, and or whoever she was, and where the Baptist chapel is now. We were the first house in the road, of course.
All these plans are in the museum collection. There are more than I've just shown today.
Well, I should be bothering John to have a good look at them now, John.
Yeah, they're not in superb condition, many of them, but I think I've probably shown the best two. There must be, 6 or 7 of them.
Clive, a lot of the land that Mail and so on sold and did in lots around that area, we've got, I think, probably hundreds of legal documents with maps in them that are not in the map. They're not with the maps, they're in the legal documents as well.
Yeah.
Anybody else with a question?
I mean, the point you're making, Heather, is that the collection is incredibly rich. And you can only access it if everything's catalogued, which is a time-consuming and difficult process, as you know. But I was lucky that I was able to just go through things. I went through everything at one time, but you couldn't do that now. There are too many archive boxes. But 25 years ago, there were maybe, I don't know, half that many, and I could do it in about 3 weeks. And it was fun.
Clive, this is Matthew speaking. I wonder, thanks very much for your talk, first of all. Just in relation to the name, I wonder if the spelling Feversham was just a question of spelling, or was it also a question of pronunciation, and did it link to the prevalence of malaria? I
did at one time suspect that, but all the books I have on place names in Kent don't really cover the why. They only record what. And there were various spellings of Faversham. You saw on the Henry VIII picture map, Faversham is spelt with 2 Fs.
Yeah.
And that seems to be common at some period of time, that places with an F at the beginning of their names were spelt with 2 Fs for some reason. But it was just either a convention or a mistake, who knows? And I don't really know why. I mean, it's easy to think it could be Feversham because of the ague, but I don't think it's that easy. I mean, who would call their town after a disease?
Nick is trying to get in. Nick?
Well, I was just going to comment. I was going to ask a question, but I was just going to say, surely it's something to do with ferrous and Feversham, being steel, metal. But the question I was going to ask was, you had some aerial photographs from
I did.
the 1940s. One of Monkey Island, one that, as a matter of fact, shows the house we live in. Wonder where they were.
Is that at the start, the 3 pictures at the start, or the one at the end?
They were nearer the end, actually. I think
Oh,
they
oh.
sort of 1940s.
Oh, I know. This is the one at the creek.
They showed the metal bridge going on to Monkey
Oh,
Island.
that one. Yes, the Crab Island one. I think it's called. Or Monkey Island, is it?
Yeah.
One of
Actually, no, Crab Island, Monkey Bay, Powder Monkey Bay is further down. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's Crab Island there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Due to the shape.
Right. Where did I get those? I can't remember. They might be in the museum collection, but some time ago I was given a lot of images or lent them. And I can't remember now, but try contact Heather and try to see if they're in the photographic archive. They ought to be if they're not. So if they're not, I can send them because I've got them here. I can easily send them as emails.
I'd love that.
As attachments.
Thank you for, I'll take the opportunity to say thank you, Clive.
Okay.
It's very interesting. I thought it was very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else with a question? Well, I did warn you that you wouldn't get away with 10 minutes.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Everybody finished? Well, if I may then, let me formally, have you found somebody else with a question?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I've just put on the comments, on the chat, I've just put on a few links to online websites which have got maps of Faversham on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
National Library of Scotland, of all places. Great maps there.
Great library. Okay, Clive, can I just say formally on behalf of the Faversham Society, thanks for doing this. Thanks for making the time. And thanks, it was your suggestion at if you remember, it was your suggestion at the AGM that we might experiment with some Zoom talks, and you've demonstrated, I think, very successfully that we should be doing more of these. We had close to 50 people in this, and it's a mark of how much people enjoyed it that there's still well over 30. So thank you very much indeed for your contribution this evening. It's much appreciated. And clapping does work with Zoom, so if you want to express your appreciation in the usual way, please do so.
It's nice to see everyone. We do miss you.
We miss you.
Yeah, we miss you a lot.
Thank you.
I'm in contact, Clive.
Thanks very much, Clive. I'm going to stop the recording.